Hello, everybody, and happy May. The sun is pouring into my living room, and when I open up the sunroom, then all the heat comes in because it's so sunny and it's still so chilly. It's still so chilly in the living room. But when we open up that sunroom door, whew, it gets so yummy and toasty in here. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this El Nino. Is it El Nino? Am I just saying that right? I think so. This El Nino year where we've had a lot of rain. There's been a few years where May has been nothing but sun, and it's been fearful, right? There's been a lot of fear in the last 4 years between COVID, all the various oh, fallout of that. I don't even need to list it. I know you have your own list. No? Yeah, I'm just running it through in my mind right now, all the different pieces, be it the environment, be it the Ukraine, be it what's happening in Israel and Palestine, you know, be it Palestinians rather on the Gaza Strip, be it the awkwardness of knowing how to show up in the world as we recognize on this Western part of the planet how privileged we are, and yet how deep racism lives here. And that awkwardness of when you can't see what you've never seen, how do you see it? And then how do we step in that, like, whoa, uncertainty, uncertainty everywhere. And it brings up a lot of fear. Of course it does. It's not that change is scary. We say that change is scary. It's just the unknown is unknown. And we can say, well, let's just find how to deal with the unknown, how to be peaceful in the unknown. But I'm sorry, like the unknown is the unknown. You can't make the unknown peaceful unless you're pretending that you know something about the unknown. And that's not to say that you have to know things to be peaceful. I'm just saying, I we don't need to bypass how fucking uncomfortable it is to be in the unknown. And some people might call that fear. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know how your nervous system responds. Your system responds in the way that it does. Just the unknown is a thing, Haha, that was ridiculous. The unknown is a no. I need to stop cracking myself up. Or maybe not. I'm checking in with you. It is May, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this day. And I thought I would share with you an experience I had last month. Last month I checked in and just kind of let you know what was going down in my life and all the different moving parts, and how all these moving parts really do live under this one umbrella that is story. And last month I had the absolute privilege of stepping into a new body of work through the Coalition for Regenerative Work, and with my pal Brenda Morrison, who is part of the Center for Restorative Justice at Simon Fraser University. And she had this idea of putting a retreat together where the name of it was called Widening the Circle. And the work of it that happens in the retreat was this exploration of what it means to weave together. And of course, in true Brenda fashion and why we're pals, it was done in an emergent way, which, as you know, is really what the how of my work is all about. How I approach things and what I hold sacred is the how of emergence. And I had the good fortune of co-facilitating with Brenda Morrison and Kylie Schilling. Kylie and I have never co-facilitated before, but we met on Bowen Island, and she comes with a long list of community work and working in social impact spaces, and currently has devoted her waking hours to writing, and she works in the prison systems as well with women as I could be wrong about that. I just remember for sure in the prison systems and working with bringing writing and storytelling into that space. And so the three of us set out to create a container where the practice of weaving can happen. And the interesting thing that I learned out of that, it took me 2 weeks to integrate the learning from that workshop, that retreat. And it's because it kind of bent my mind a little bit or a lot. I've often thought of weaving like braiding, and it is. So let's just look at a braid. Like a braid has 3 strands. We know what each unique strand is, over, 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 right? And they come together in this beautiful roping of 3 strands that are under, over, under, over. Very specific, right? 3 strands in a certain place, but is weaving that. And it's certainly, I would say for me, that is not what we explored over the over the week together. What makes weaving different from collaborating? What makes weaving different from cooperating? And I would say braiding is like cooperating or collaborating. 3 individual strands. You know what you do. You communicate with each other. I'm going to go here. 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 That is braiding. Whereas weaving, now to be fair, I've never actually used what are they called? I don't know what I can't remember what they're called, but I can't remember what they're called. I've never woven anything using that big beautiful contraption. It's called a thing. I can't remember it. I have never done that. Where so I can't speak to that. What I will say though is where this particular week took us was that weaving is, to me, I'll speak for me, feels like dancing, and not just dancing by yourself, but dancing with other people. And when you dance with other people, or I come from a choir background, when you sing with other people, when you are working toward a thing with other people, and you don't have the luxury of communicating with your mouth or communicating with your eyes or preparing with certain dance steps that everybody just knows where to fall in. When you don't have the luxury of that, all that you have is your body's response to filling a need in the room, which is like dancing. Another way that came to mind for me was it's like contact improv without any contact. I might have contact, but it's like contact improv, and you're moving in a direction to go somewhere. Contact improv is such a beautiful, I don't know if you ever watched contact improv, but it's so beautiful to watch because one person starts moving in a certain way and another person will come in and contact is made. And as soon as that contact is made, there's a third in the room now, right? One person moves, the second person touches. When they touch, the third is the impulse that happens between the two people, and we're off. Things are changed forever. Two separates come together, and when they do, that third happens, and now the two is following the impulse that happens between the connection, right? So to watch that in contact improv, there's a lot of trading of weight, or not even trading but sharing of weight. One person takes 90% of the weight, another person takes 10, and then it shifts 70-30, 60-40, but there's no conversation about it. And then all of a sudden in the improv, there's movement, and not just weight exchange, but but it's like the bodies are talking to each other, having a conversation through touch. And you might add a third person or a fourth person or a fifth person. And then all of these people, all of these bodies are now listening to each other and moving as one. But they're not one. They are five individual people, but what they are moving as is five individual people following one impulse, or five individual people tracking an impulse that moves from number 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 2 to 5 to 4 to 3, right? There's one thing that moves, and you're tracking that, and yet you are individuated and connected. And so as we explored this through the lens of, if we were to weave our organizations together, knowing that, I'm going to just speak broadly, in the social impact space, let's pretend everybody in the social impact space is trying to move towards peace. Now, that's a big word, peace. It means lots and lots of things, but let's just say we're moving towards peace. And we have all these different social impact groups that all want the same thing or want the same state of being. And yet all of these social impact groups are like staying in their own lane and not collaborating or leaning in with each other. Or maybe collaboration is happening, but there isn't that sense of contact improv. There isn't that sense of, when I go down, you go up. When I go halfway, you can afford to go down because somebody else has come all the way up. There isn't that intuitive answering the need. And even in answering the need, for those of us who've experienced burnout, we can answer the need almost to the expense of ourselves. We can lose ourselves sometimes and pour too much of ourselves because we're answering a need. And that's not weaving either. Weaving has this interdependence, which is I am settled in my being, settled in my energy source, settled in my capacity, settled in it, my groundedness, and you are too. And as I notice there's a need in the room, I will fill that need without ever losing my own groundedness. Will I share my energy? Yes. Will I maybe sometimes give more than I can? Yes. But then there will be a replacement of that somewhere else in the weaving. It was quite an exploration, and to try to even wrap your mind around it is it's not that it's too much, but as soon as we can wrap our mind around it, then we're going to start to try to figure it out like an equation, right? And once we're in equations, we're in silos. Once we're in silos, we're seeing the individuation. And of course, if we're all just one big blob, then we're all enmeshed with each other, and we can't see each individual strand or thread. So this exploration of weaving, to me, where it landed was, whew, how am I in a room of people with the word and the embodiment of trust? How am I? How am I really? How does this nervous system that is me respond to that nervous system that is them? Do I want to become a we? Well, we already are a we. We're not one. We are two individual people connecting. How do I want to do that? What comes to mind for me was a bit of a teaching from Chris Durkee, whom you've heard me mention before. There was a talk we were at a number of years ago around the three, I think it was around the three faces of God, or the three positions of God, or meeting God, or something like that. It was a conversation about God. And in that, we were invited to look at the three positions of God. First position is very Christianity. It's very the God in me. I. I am the home. God lives in me. I. Then there is the second position of God, which is some would say it's like more the Muslim religion, where it's about surrender. It is giving over. Those of us Westerners really struggle with this one because we see a power dynamic in that, rather than seeing the absolute trust that lives in that space of absolute surrender, like laying at the feet of. So that would be the second position. The third position is is the we, is the all, which is a very, I would say, like a very more Buddhist perspective. And when I think about weaving, I actually really experience weaving in that second position, which I think is very challenging for us Westerners because it really is about surrender. It's not about giving over of your entirety, but it is about saying, I trust this moment. And as I trust myself and I trust this moment, I may not trust you, but I can trust this moment. I'm going to give this of myself. And I will also receive this of you. Yeah. And can you imagine in the multiplicity of our organizations, of social impact work, how might we move together like a flock of birds? And I'm totally pulling this one from Christine Spinder, who was one of the participants in the workshop. She led a whole piece on what is called flocking, where we as a group moved like a flock of birds. And when we move as a flock of birds, we don't know who's leading anymore. We don't logically respond because there's a hole there. We simply fill it because that's the impulse. When the group begins to lead the group, when we can pass the leadership between us like a pulse, and we can tune into that and feel that, that's flocking. And I felt like that is what weaving is. And the practice for me, the takeaway for me, was again this sort of second position of God. And how am I with the word trust? Really, how am I with that? And can I hold on to myself as I trust the group? Can I trust me and the group at the same time? So that's what I want to leave you with today from this story gal, the story of weaving. And what does that bring up for you? You've heard me say this before. Sometimes you tell the story and sometimes the story tells you. And it's actually in the dance of those two places where I would say now, from this weaving learning, where I allow the surrender to happen to the story, and I am weaving this story, or I'm being woven by the story. Because what about this? Sometimes we are the weaver, and sometimes we are woven. Oof. And again, somewhere in the middle is that beautiful spot of co creation. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. In this edition, you'll hear a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to share with you Courtney. I'm back in Courtney in May, end of May. I'm heading out to Winnipeg for a 10-day immersive on expressive arts therapy. My expressive arts therapy practicum is launched, and I'm going to let you know that how you can book those with me. It's like a blending of story work and expressive arts therapy. So that's here for you. And a little bit of writing will be shared with you too. So have a great month, and we will chat soon, as we always do.